What's going on, everybody? Simple back at it like I'm checking my height. Today we're checking out the ugly, dangerous, and inefficient stroads found all over the U.S. and Canada. We checked out multiple videos from this channel. Definitely make sure you guys go and support them. All of their information will be down in the description below. If you guys have a request, make sure you check out the Google form down in the description as well. Let's get right into this one.
This is the 5th video in my Strongtown series. You don't need to watch the others to understand this one, but it might provide some context.
Okay.
If you live in the US or Canada, then this will certainly look familiar
We did
to
see
you.
the Houston video.
Multiple lanes of car traffic, wide highway-sized lanes, giant signs, traffic lights, parking lots, lots of driveways and side streets with
that
traffic
one looks-
merging in and out, and a place that's nearly impossible to
like
cross
that was
as a
from the
pedestrian. There isn't even a sidewalk
Where
here.
you could compare the Netherlands bike
These are
pass.
what Strongtowns refers to as stroads, which is a horrible name, and that's intentional because these are horrible places.
Rough.
Stroads are a street-road hybrid, and they are dangerous, expensive, and ineffective. I'll get to
Is
those
true,
issues
though.
in a moment, but first, let's talk about the difference between
Can I just point out the cut on that lawn real quick? Shout out to that company. Let's go.
I'll get to those issues in a moment, but first, let's talk about the difference between a street and a road, according to Strongtowns. This is a road. It is a high-speed connection between two places. Because of the high speeds involved, there are several safety features. The lanes are wide and forgiving so that vehicles do not bump into each other. The road is as straight as possible, and when curves are necessary, they're designed to be gentle, making it easy to drive along. The area next to the road, called the clear zone, is free of any obstacles that could be hit, just in case a vehicle runs off the road.
Okay.
The signs are very large, designed to be read from a distance and at high speeds. And entrances and exits are few and far between because the road is designed to keep vehicles at a high speed for as long as possible to minimize travel times.
No, is this the same thing as a highway? Roads and streets, like a highway is a road because it has like the bigger signs, faster travel, wider lane type of thing. It's fine.
Roads are important. We need roads, though I personally prefer my roads to have rails.
Fair enough.
This is a street. It is a complex environment where life in the city happens.
Okay.
Buildings
fair
are
enough.
placed right next to the sidewalk to be easily accessible by people walking, and it gives a sense of space, almost like an outdoor room. This is a place that feels comfortable to be in, so you find people here.
I guess I've never actually thought about the difference between a road and a street. I've always called them the same thing. So it's kind of cool hearing like a thought out description of them. Like, I don't know.
There are many entrances and exits to and from the street, and there may also be street parking for vehicles and deliveries. This is an environment meant for slow speeds because this is a destination, not a thoroughfare. High-speed traffic is not compatible with lots of human activity, so vehicle speeds are reduced. Everything on the street is at a human scale. It's designed to be inviting, encouraging people to walk, to window shop, or to just sit and watch the world go by. The street is designed to get the most value out of the space available.
That looks so cool.
Streets are very important, and we definitely need streets. A stroad, on the other hand, is neither of these things. Just like how a
It's honestly an abomination compared to the two things that they just showed in comparison.
futon converts from a terrible uncomfortable couch to a terrible uncomfortable bed, the stroad is the futon of transportation.
And I love this guy's dry sense of humor. He's just like throwing it in there. Just like this thing is uncomfortable no matter how you use it. A stroad sucks just as much. Like, it's awesome. Shout out to Not
It
Just
is a
Bikes.
street that is designed like a road, and in doing so, it fails at being good at either one. The stroad fails at being a street. There are many driveways to businesses and homes like you'd find on a street, but mixed with multiple highway-sized lanes. This mixes high speeds with many points of conflict. Watch out for this white car turning, and this cyclist. Are there any cars coming out of these driveways?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a street, stroads are hostile to people outside of a car. There are lots of motor vehicles and speeds are high, so walking or cycling feels uncomfortable and dangerous.
Very true.
There are long distances between places, and there are often large parking lots that need to be crossed before getting anywhere. and it's basically impossible to cross the stroad except by walking to a traffic signal and waiting. The signs are large and meant to be read while driving, which feels really out of scale if you're walking there. And often trees have been removed from the clear zone, making the environment even more uninviting if you're not in a car. Somehow, though, painted bicycle gutters are still okay in the clear zone. Traffic engineers are concerned about drivers hitting a tree. Hitting a cyclist is expected. This is clearly a place for cars, so it's unsurprising that pretty much everyone drives here. Trust me, it sucks to walk down this stroad. But these environments are ugly anyway. Nobody cares about these places and nobody wants to spend any time here. Cities in the US and Canada are covered in terrible non-places like this. Places you go because you have to, not because you want to. Nobody actually sits and watches the world go by on this bench. But the stroad fails at being a road too. The lanes are wide and there are a lot of them. You're surrounded by asphalt, but you can't actually get anywhere quickly like you can with a road. There are cars constantly changing lanes and going in and out of the stroad, slowing down traffic and introducing many points of conflict that require drivers to constantly slow down to avoid a collision. Traffic volumes can be quite high on stroads because there are no viable alternatives to driving. Distances are too far to walk and it's too unsafe to cycle, and since public transit gets stuck in traffic anyway, only the poor and the desperate will take the bus. So everyone drives.
Yep.
But
Very
because
true.
there are so many crossroads, entrances, and exits to the stroad, traffic lights are required,
Lousy
meaning drivers
London.
are constantly stopping at red lights.
Jeez.
And because speeds are
Lousy
high,
London.
light timings need to be very long, leading to
Okay.
traffic signal-induced congestion. Nobody is getting anywhere quickly on a stroad. All of these elements make stroads unsafe as well, and the majority of fatal crashes within cities happen on stroads. They are especially dangerous to people walking and cycling. The wide and straight design of highways were designed that way to make them safe for high-speed traffic. But the stroad to hell is paved with good intentions.
The stroad down.
On a stroad, these wide highway-like
That's
designs
awesome.
encourage drivers to drive quickly.
That's awesome.
But combining that with traffic turning in and out of driveways and lots of four-way junctions makes this the most dangerous type of urban driving possible. This is an inherently unsafe way to design a road, and it's part of the reason why the US has the most dangerous roads of any developed country. For example, during the coronavirus lockdowns in the first 9 months of 2020, car volumes in the US dropped significantly. But despite an estimated 355 billion fewer miles driven, fatal crashes per mile actually increased by up to 34%.
I mean, it's basically just because we couldn't, right? Now he said, hold on, run that by me one more time, brother.
Significantly. But despite an estimated 355 billion fewer miles driven, fatal crashes per mile actually increased by up to 34%.
I wonder what that's all about, though. That's a very interesting statistic.
This brings us to the sad truth, that the only reason these unsafe American stroads aren't killing even more people regularly is because they're usually so jammed up with traffic that drivers can't get going fast enough to kill each other. And finally, stroads are really expensive. Because stroads are built to a highway standard, their lanes are very wide and there are never less than 4 lanes. Plus there's normally extra space for shoulders and clear zones at the side of the road too. Because stroads try to be streets, there are many entrances and exits, so many turning lanes are required. But because of the high speeds, turning lanes are much longer than on a street, taking up even more space. And as traffic increases even more, due to traffic entering and exiting the stroad, the city will install another traffic signal for $750,000.
Yep.
All of this means that a stroad is much bigger than a road that would carry the same amount of traffic, and significantly larger than a street that would have the same number of businesses and houses along it. As the size of the stroad increases, there are several other costs incurred. High-speed stroads need to be flat, so the area that needs to be graded increases. Land may need to be purchased from residents to widen the stroad and destroy their property values. By the way, do you think this girl is waiting to cross this 5-lane stroad? Flood protection infrastructure
luck.
becomes much more expensive due to the impermeable surfaces. And there's a huge amount of asphalt and traffic control systems to maintain. And of course, because everyone drives, large parts of the landscape need to be dedicated to parking lots, meaning everything is inherently spread out in low density.
We talked about that in the last one, how they had to demolish places and how, each of these places are technically owned by a person, and the person's not going to give it back to nature. They're going to wait until the property value goes up. They'll sell it to somebody else and blah, 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 and so on and so on. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Parking lots don't employ anyone, and they don't earn much tax revenue either. A stroad environment is
Unless you're up in
significantly
the
less
snowy
financially
areas.
productive than a street, but with significantly more infrastructure.
The only time a parking lot employs someone is if you know it's going to snow, because now you have to hire a company to come and plow it, right? So there's at least that part. But for most of the western and southern United States, where they don't get snow like that, it doesn't employ anybody.
The result is a mix of high cost per area maintenance expenses
At least that I
combined
can
with
think
low
of.
value per acre tax revenue, which makes these stroad environments a net negative for cities. These places are literally putting American cities on the stroad to financial ruin, and they're doing it while being dangerous, ugly, and ultimately ineffective at actually moving people. The stroad fails at every metric, but it's the default setting for transportation design almost everywhere in the US and Canada. So what's the alternative? Well, Strongtowns advocates for one of two things. First, you can convert a stroad into a road. This means limiting access to the stroad, accessing businesses and neighborhoods from side streets. Painted bicycle gutters need to be removed because moving vehicles is the primary objective of a road. People can still walk or cycle, but these paths need to be completely separated from the flow of traffic. In this way, the stroad becomes a road, a high-speed connection between two places. The other alternative is to turn the stroad into a street. For this, the lanes need to be narrowed and parking needs to be moved to the curb or behind buildings, and the buildings themselves need to be built closer to the street.
That's basically what all of New York is. And some of the bigger cities around here as well, because it's really hard, like Boston. It's really hard to find parking. There's parking garages, but aside from that, if you want street parking, it's pretty tough. But this looks similar, in a way, I guess.
Everything needs to be brought down to a human scale, making it inviting to people, and getting more value from the space available.
In New York, people just took it over.
This isn't a hypothetical, and we don't have to imagine what this would look like, because the Netherlands
There's so many
has already
cars
done
you
it,
can't really drive
just with
anywhere
3
anyway.
types of infrastructure instead of the 2 proposed by Strongtowns. You will almost never find a stroad here, because in the 1990s, the Dutch adopted the concept of sustainable traffic safety. And one of the key pillars of this program was that every road and street in the Netherlands has to be classified and designated as one of the following 3 options. The first is a stroomweg, which is pretty straightforward. It is a motorway or highway. I think everyone is familiar with these, so I won't spend too much time on it. But the important thing here is that there are no traffic controls. Cars enter and exit through merge lanes, and you will never find a traffic light or roundabout on a stroomweg. Highways should also go around cities and never through cities. I'm looking at you, Cincinnati. Actually, that's not fair, because basically all American cities did this. Thankfully, the plan to do this to Amsterdam was unsuccessful. Moving one level down is the Gebiedsontsluitingsweg, the distributor road. These are the connectors between highways and streets.
Okay.
There may be entrances and exits to other
Pronounce
streets
it,
and
try to
roads,
pronounce that.
but driveways to houses or businesses are avoided as much as possible. And if traffic controls are necessary,
I just said
then
it
roundabouts are
in the drive.
preferred, unless traffic volumes require a traffic light. I'm going to refer to these
Roundabouts
as
are great.
roads. Finally, there's the Erftoegangsweg, the neighborhood access street. These are the end destinations for journeys, the places where people live, work, shop, relax, and so on. I'm going to refer to these as streets. Streets are designed to be low speed with a speed limit of no more than 30 kilometers per hour, and they almost never have more than 1 motor vehicle lane per direction. In many cases, vehicle speeds are slow enough that separated bicycle infrastructure is not required, though bicycle paths may still be used to purposefully narrow the street, constraining the space available for motor vehicles. The street network is designed to discourage through traffic by cars, either through traffic calming or by explicitly blocking cars while still allowing walking, cycling, and public transit to take the most direct route. I've talked about this before in my invisible infrastructure video, where I show a typical trip by bicycle through the street network compared to the very different route by road that is taken when driving. Once you learn about these three types of road in the Netherlands, what I'm unofficially calling highways, roads, and streets, it's really interesting to drive around and see which type you're on. This is a street. This is a road. This is a street. This is a road. This is a road with streets on either side to access houses. Since this is a relatively recent concept, only implemented about 30 years ago, the best place to see this in action is in newer developments. Here we are driving on a road outside the town of Nieuwleusen. This road is designed to move vehicles, so there is no direct access to adjacent properties. The homes and businesses are accessed by streets on the right and left side, and the road is mostly accessed by roundabout. As we exit the roundabout into this industrial park, the road turns into a street, where cars and trucks can access the warehouses and industrial facilities safely and efficiently without disrupting traffic on the road. It's also very interesting to see where one type turns into another. This is clearly a street, a residential street in Amsterdam. There is parking on either side, and there are many side streets branching off. There are no traffic lights or stop signs. Speeds are low here, so intersections are unmarked, and you give priority to any vehicle coming from the right. I've talked about this before in my video about stop signs. This street has a brick road surface, speed bumps, and other traffic calming measures to slow down traffic. The speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour, and bicycle and motor vehicle
Ain't nobody stopping that guy, though. Did you see how fast?
slow down traffic.
Look at this guy.
The speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour, and bicycle
Flying.
and motor vehicle traffic is mixed.
He had places to be.
But as we travel down this street, we come to a set of traffic lights, and here is where this street becomes a road. The bicycle path becomes totally separated from motor vehicle traffic. There's no more street parking. The road surface is made of smooth asphalt, and there's a median separating the traffic lanes.
And that's because you've come out of the area where you can enter and exit all of the places that you were just in. That's really neat. I like that design. That's cool.
There are buildings on either side, but
Very
crucially,
different,
they
but-
cannot be accessed by this road because turning traffic would be inefficient and unsafe. As we travel down this road a little farther, we can see here it turns back into a street. Here's another example in the suburb of Amstelveen. The right-of-way is about 22 meters, which in the US or Canada would be at least a 4-lane road with center turning lane.
Yep.
But despite the space available, there's only one lane of motor vehicle traffic in each direction here, and the lanes are narrow, which encourages drivers to drive slower. Single-lane roads are much safer because cars changing lanes introduces points of conflict between vehicles, and they are easier for pedestrians to cross. This also frees up space on both sides for car parking, a bicycle path, and a sidewalk. There are multiple other streets intersecting with this one, bringing traffic in and out of the street. A few meters along, this street starts to turn into a road. Here you can see that access to the houses and parking on the right-hand side are provided by a small side street running parallel to the road, so that through traffic does not compete with drivers going in and out of parking spaces. Travel along this road a little farther, and the street has completely turned into a road. There is a stoplight, multiple lanes of motor vehicle traffic, and an entrance to a highway. The bicycle path is two-way and isolated completely from the road. A little farther along, this road becomes quite interesting. Here, there are several houses, but instead of being accessed directly, as they would be on a stroad, they're accessible by a two-way side street, which was made purposefully narrow to slow down drivers. This also provides a safe alternative for people cycling.
So where the hell do you go, like, if there's two cars? Say that there was a whole line of those vans, right? And there was two cars. You couldn't go anywhere. Like, it's got to be at least a little bit bigger. Maybe there's just not that many people that park, I guess. I don't know.
The road itself is only 2 lanes for car
interesting.
traffic, with turning lanes when necessary. One lane has been reserved as a bus lane, and there is a 2-way cycling path as well. It's also interesting to note that because dedicated bus lanes and bicycle paths are much more efficient at moving people than car lanes, this road configuration can actually transport more people than a typical stroad. The Netherlands didn't change this overnight, and this transition to roads and streets is not totally complete. There are still some streets here that carry too much through traffic, for example, but at least they're usually only 2 lanes wide. This change has happened slowly, with street and road redesigns spread out over the past 30 years. The first step, though, was identifying that there was a problem with road safety and road productivity and changing the design standards to match. It's time to face the fact that designing Stroads as both a high-speed thoroughfare and a destination simply doesn't work. Stroads are dangerous and expensive, they destroy walkability, they make cycling dangerous and infeasible, and they don't work for drivers either. The US and Canada need to rethink the traffic engineering manuals that define urban spaces and start building productive streets and efficient roads. Then they can get on the road to recovery and benefit from fewer traffic deaths, more viable alternatives to driving, less traffic.
We have roads that are similar to this in some cities as well. In Massachusetts.
And more financially productive cities. It's the end of the road for Stroads. Good riddance. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to get this show on the Stroad. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to bonus videos, visit patreon.com/notjustbikes.
Boom. All right, let me know what you guys thought about that one down in the comments below. Let me know where to go from here in the Google form down in the description. As you guys can see, I have this huge Team C's logo behind me. In case you guys didn't know what Team C's is, I'll take a moment to explain it. Mark Rober and Mr. Beast have come together in support of Boyan Slot, who is the head of the Ocean Cleanup Project. And what they're doing is they're trying to raise $30 million to pull 30 million pounds of trash out of the ocean. Boyan has invented this thing called the Interceptor, and they plan on putting them at the top 1% of the rivers that basically spill trash out into the ocean. And if you guys didn't know about Team Trees, they raised a lot of money to plant trees. They planted a lot of trees, and this is called Team C's. So definitely make sure you guys check out the Team C's playlist I have. It's all fundraiser videos. I don't get anything from it. What we get from it, you guys as the viewer, me as the creator, correct, is that we get to support this really, really cool thing that's going on. Especially while we're all so kind of down and everything is the way it is, right? This is kind of like a glimmer of hope. It's a little bar that we can all kind of reach for together. So it's really cool. Basically, all you guys have to do is watch the videos, share the videos. As the videos make money through monetization, they're all for the fundraiser, so all of that monetization goes directly to the Team C's Foundation. I highly suggest you guys check out Boyan Slot. Definitely check out Mark Rober, Mr. Beast, if you don't know them already. I'm sure you probably do, but if you don't, definitely make sure you guys check them out. Yeah, make sure you guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, and I'll catch you on the next one.